Hello everyone, my name is Grace Qian, and today for my college sports writing class, I am interviewing Annalea Maeder, who is currently a setter on the UC Berkeley women's D1 volleyball team. I've known Anna since freshman year of college, and we're both seniors now, which is crazy, but she is someone who I really respect on and off the court. She's someone who's super fun to watch playing-wise, but she's also super fun to play with. I played with her a couple times at UC Berkeley's open gyms and in our intramural games. But one of the reasons why I wanted to interview Anna was because I know that we both really love playing volleyball, but also because she is from Switzerland, and I was genuinely curious about her perspective on recent developments within the world of college volleyball, as well as women's volleyball and college athletics in general. Thank you so much, Anna, for agreeing to do this interview with me, and hope you enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name is Annalea Maeder. I'm on the D1 Cal women's volleyball team. I'm majoring in microbial biology with concentration in computational biology. I'm a senior, so it's my fourth year at Cal, and in my free time, I don't have a lot of it, but I still like to play volleyball. I like to read, cook, watch K-dramas, kind of all that stuff.
Tell me a little bit more about your journey from Switzerland to kind of being a volleyball player at Cal.
Yeah, so I grew up and went to all the schools until high school in Switzerland. So I completed a high school in Switzerland and was eventually recruited to play here at Cal for the women's volleyball team. That happened through a friend of mine. She kind of introduced collegiate sports and collegiate volleyball to me and asked whether I ever thought of going to the US, and I was interested, and we sent out a bunch of emails with my clips to coaches, and Cal ended up being the best fit for me, and that's how I ended up here.
Got it. I was also curious about how does playing volleyball in Switzerland compare to your experience at Berkeley, the levels. I know sometimes I've heard that in Europe too, a lot of the colleges, they do have college sports, but it's not the same level of competitiveness as here. Maybe going more into that.
Yeah, so in Switzerland specifically, and I think in most European leagues, it's not collegiate sports that is the majority of the sports. It's professional sports, so it's definitely a lot different. And you're right, universities do have teams, but they're much less competitive. What often happens is that people who play on pro teams that are from that country, like from Switzerland, for example, they go to university while they play on a pro team, and essentially how it works, it's like club volleyball in the US, but it just goes up further in levels. So there's a lot of junior teams and there's a lot of lower leagues, but then there's also the professional league where also Americans after college often participate in.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard a couple people who are in D1 in the US and then they go into Europe to play pro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's super cool. Kind of a simple question, but do you ever feel homesick?
Yeah, in the beginning I felt homesick a lot. Now this has become more and more of my home too, so that's nice. I mostly miss my family and being around them, but in terms of location, I always, I like it in Berkeley, but I also look forward to go home after every semester.
Yeah, during the breaks and stuff. And then now I would kind of like to talk about things in NCAA volleyball itself, kind of recent rule changes.
Yeah.
So recently, the NCAA has implemented a rule that allows players to contact the ball more than once in a single attempt. How do you think that this will impact gameplay, especially since I know that you are a setter?
Yeah, so just to specify the rule a little bit, it is allowed to double contact a ball as a set. However, it has to stay on your own side, so it cannot go over the net during that attempt, I guess, because then it would still count as a double. And I think the NCAA chose to do it that way to allow more rallies to go on, because when there is, a high intensity play or a long rally, it often used to get ended by a touch that wasn't claimed by the setter, and that is just, for fans and for the team itself, it's kind of disappointing. Yeah, it's a bummer. And so I think the NCAA chose to do that to make it more exciting, and honestly, I do not feel like it has changed a lot in terms of what I was scared of, because you're right, I am a setter, and I thought that would kind of take away the beauty of the setter position and what makes our skill, which is, you know, delivering clean and precise balls. Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, now everybody can just, you know, fling up a ball and like become a setter all of a sudden, and all of our training is like kind of worthless. But honestly, I don't feel that way. Like, I think it has benefited rally play. Sometimes I think setters get like embarrassed when it happens to them, and then it's not called, and it's just like, oh my god, what am I doing? But yeah, I think it's a good rule change.
Okay. But yeah, another recent rule change that kind of happened was coaches can now use 2 liberos in a match. Do you think that this will impact like defense strategies, player rotations? Do you think it gives teams more like flexibility in managing defense, especially in like longer matches? Kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm from Europe, and I played in Europe for a long time, and it's actually always been that way in Europe, that you can have 2 libs, and that they can, you know, interchange freely. And I actually really like that. I think it allows liberos to, you know, specialize on one thing, either defense or reception, which it's not like the reception libero doesn't have to play defense, because it's still like a rally, right? But I definitely think that it allows teams to strategize a little more and to, you know, just take what's best out of someone and give them a chance to perform. So I don't really see any negative sides on it. We personally haven't played against a team that uses 2 liberos.
Got it. Okay, so maybe it's just a rule that kind of got added, but maybe not used as often.
Yeah, maybe it will get used more in the future, but I think what happens with these rules very often is that in the beginning nobody really knows what to do with them, and then people start to adapt to them and kind of take advantage of them, and so we'll see in the upcoming years.
This is kind of like a side thing, but I know like in a lot of like other countries, the libero isn't allowed to serve.
Yeah.
So do you think that should be something that should be included in like college volleyball, or no?
It's funny because in other leagues, obviously, then both of the middles have to serve, and as a result of that, also have to play defense, which I've always enjoyed seeing our middles back home. Yeah, it's entertaining for sure. And it's always been funny because I've played with liberos in Europe that weren't even able to make a serve over the net because they never had to. I think both have, you know, kind of their advantages. I don't really have a preference in those. I honestly like to see our libero serving in our team right now. She's a great server, and I think it's definitely, liberos have a lot to, you know, give to the game, and that's definitely a cool thing. But I also think that, you know, both middles should have the chance to serve, so it's kind of it's a give and take, and I don't really have that much of a strong opinion on it. I think it allows for longer rallies to have the libero serve instead of the middle, just because usually middles are not as
strong defensively.
Strong defensively.
Going more into questions on like recent developments in women's sports and college athletics. So in women's sports in particular, and in volleyball, not 1, not 2, but 3 pro volleyball leagues in the US are set to launch soon. So one of them is called League One Volleyball, which is branded as LOVB, and it follows the Pro Volleyball Federation, and it finished its inaugural season in this May. And then Athletes Unlimited is another league that runs 5 weeks at one site and then begins its 4th season on September 30th. So are there any specific kind of developments in the volleyball world or college sports that you personally find very exciting or like concerning?
The pro leagues emerging in the US is super exciting, and I think they are getting a lot of talent that, you know, kind of stopped playing after college because they didn't want to move to another continent, and now they can continue to play after college in the US, which is definitely a super exciting opportunity for USA volleyball, and I think they're doing it to retain a lot of the talent that, you know, I mean, it's not like the US is missing talent. Like, I mean, they got second in the Olympics and they did great, but I also think for the public's engagement into the sport, it's a great thing. I think right now everything is very college volleyball focused, which is also a fabulous thing. But if players can continue to do that and make a living, like, I think that's definitely something super exciting and definitely something that will attract a lot of attention and people, and it'll only make our sport grow, which is all, you know, I care for. So that's really cool.
Are you interested in probably doing this in like the future, like playing in a pro league?
Yeah, in a pro league, maybe not necessarily in the US.
Okay. And what do you think are the biggest challenges facing female athletes in college sports, or not just in college sports, but just in sports in general? And how do you think like these challenges can be addressed potentially?
I mean, I think just the visibility. I think oftentimes in a lot of sports, and luckily volleyball is not necessarily one of those sports, men's sports get a lot more attention than female sports, and obviously in many cases it's because they're more exciting, because they're more physical, and it's just more action going on, and the athletes in the sport are more of a like once in a decade type of athletes, right? While in women's sports, not a lot of women that would be those type of athletes stay in the sport because it is not feasible for them. They don't make enough money to sustain themselves, or it's just not attractive enough when they have other options. And I think, you know, I think honestly volleyball has been doing great in that aspect. I think we've been growing as a sport, and all the numbers that we're hitting in terms of like how many views, you know, we get on ESPN, or when it's streamed on like Fox, how many people actually watch. Like we get sometimes more viewers than college football, which is huge, right? Like that's really cool, and just like giving females in all sports the opportunity to have these platforms and to perform on these platforms is such an exciting thing, and it's definitely necessary for, you know, women to overcome these challenges of not being able to pursue the sport that they want to pursue because of reasons like, oh, there's a lack of funding, there's a lack of money in it. I think that would kind of be it.
Yeah, I know like not recently, but like last year, like the Nebraska volleyball team, they had like over I think 91,000 people come to their outdoor thing, which is like a huge thing. And yeah, it's just kind of fun to see it like grow. But that kind of brings me to like my next kind of topic, which is like NIL. So NIL is an acronym for name, image, and likeness. You probably have heard it plenty of times before, but it kind of refers to like the legal right of an individual to control how their name, image, and likeness is used. And recently, since the NCAA has allowed athletes to profit from NIL, the landscape of college sports has changed significantly. How has NIL impacted you or any of your other athletes on the team?
Yeah, so something about NIL is that international students unfortunately can't really profit from it because we're on a very specific visa. It's called the F1 student visa, and NIL is considered work. So you would have to get a work authorization in order to promote yourself, and that, you know, it basically hurts your status as an F1 student, and therefore a lot of international students just can't. Like I think there's ways around it, but I personally haven't explored them as much. But I know my teammates that are able to profit off of NIL, they get a lot of, you know, deals with like smaller brands and some bigger ones. Like it's a very exciting time for athletes all around the country being in college, because I think, you know, finally some of the monetary benefits are given to the athletes, while before it was just corporations profiting off of, you know, our faces, our, you know,
like your talent.
Our talent, exactly. And that was definitely, you know, not okay, and it's great to see that this development is happening. I think sometimes it's obviously a bit, you know, blown out of the water. I think, you know, there should be some regulations, because I I think at the end of the day, we're all doing sports because we love to do it, and that should stay that way and not only for the money. But I think it's definitely a great thing for college athletes.
Now you kind of touched on this before too, but like certain like NIL opportunities have been very concentrated around like major revenue sports, like such as football, basketball, and especially like for male-dominated sports too. Have you kind of noticed a difference in how like NIL has impacted women's sports like volleyball? And do you feel that female athletes are getting enough visibility?
I think it's growing. I think the big names in our sport are definitely, getting deals that are being recognized and seen. Like Madison Skinner at Texas joined the Red Bull family a while ago. There's more than that example, obviously, and I think in other sports, female athletes are definitely getting the recognition they deserve as well. Obviously, compared to men's basketball, men's football, it's obviously it's not the same, but at the end of the day, you also have to kind of look at how much revenue that sport brings in, how big of an industry it is often, because college football, it's just huge to donors, the money, like it's just gigantic. It's nothing that volleyball's ever seen, right? And that doesn't mean that we can't get there. It's just we're not there yet. But I think deals that corporations make, like Red Bull, for example, like taking a chance on like volleyball players and promoting our sport is definitely what will get us there.
And then I just wanted to end off with like a couple more fun questions. Number one, if you could be like any volleyball position, what would you want to be? Middle blocker.
Oh,
libero?
I actually like being a setter a lot,
like
so I'll stay in my position.
Okay. What have you ever played like any other positions before?
Yeah, when I was like a lot younger, I would be a right side.
Right side. Okay. What advice would you give to like younger athletes who are kind of aspiring to compete at the collegiate level?
Yeah, I mean, like recruiting advice or training advice or any
advice.
Any advice.
Yeah.
Any advice. I think being coachable goes a long way when it comes to trying to make a team, trying to get recruited, trying to, get to the next level, showing that you're coachable and that you want to learn and want to grow and can take maybe uncomfortable steps or like steps that aren't comfortable to you in order to get better, that you can be bought into somebody else's vision can help you so much than being kind of like stuck in your ways and thinking that your way is the right way, because a lot of being an athlete, and that comes for any sport honestly, is just kind of trusting your coach, trusting the system, trusting the knowledge that they have acquired over, probably a longer coaching career than you have played your sport or lived in many cases too. So I think that would be my biggest advice. Like, try to keep an open mind and not get frustrated when things are not working out. Because that will get you pretty far.
What is your dream job? It doesn't have to be related to your major, to sport, or anything. If it is, that's good too. But like, what is something like your dream job essentially that you think would be really fun to do?
Yeah, I really want to go work in a lab. I want to, work in computational biology. I don't know if you know, but the Nobel Prize for Chemistry just got awarded to scientists that developed an algorithm to predict protein folding structures, and that's so cool. I almost threw up. That was so cool. That was really like the best moment in like a really long time, and it's finally the field that I'm so interested in and that I think can make major changes in medicine, in biology, and the way we understand, literally anything is getting the recognition it deserves.
Another question was like, I know you're left-handed. What do you think are some like kind of cool pros in volleyball of being left-handed? Like kind of some cool like things, like for example when you're setter dumping, is it like does it make it easier?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, it definitely makes it easier because you're dumping with your dominant hand rather than, basically learning to dump with your non-dominant hand. I think it gives you a lot more range. It gives you a lot more just like the ability to be an offensive setter. I think for all positions except for maybe middle. I think as a middle it's kind of limiting because you can't really run a slide, so you can only be in a middle that runs in the front. But I think for all positions it can have benefits. It definitely trips out the block on the other side, and it allows you to have a bit more, like have a different fan that you can hit on each position.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I would say, it's pretty hard to be a left-handed middle for sure.
Yeah.
Last question. What is your favorite Berkeley College volleyball moment that you've had?
Oh, that's a great question. Wow.
There's probably a lot.
Yeah. There's been a lot of like significant ones, but Oh, I think we beat USC last year. That was just a huge moment for us as a team. We hadn't beat USC in like 9 or 10 years. Like it's been a minute since we beat them the last time, and it was at home. We had a decent crowd. It was just one of those games that like were so fun. Like it makes you fall in love with volleyball, with the sport that you play a little bit more. Like thinking back to it, like, oh, that's why I play. That's why I put in. Yeah, exactly. That's why I put in so much work every day. And yeah, that's definitely a moment that I really like to remember.
Okay. Yeah, I was there for your guys' like Oregon State game last year.
Okay.
I remember. I think it was the one at home. But
Oh,
yeah, home games are definitely the most fun.
Yeah,
I think.
Absolutely.
But yeah, those were pretty much all my questions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. I love that.